start this video by saying there's no real purpose to this video other than it's literally just going to be me talking about how much I love the album 2 by Crystal Castles. That's it. There's really no other purpose. I'm sure this album has been talked about a lot already, so I'm not really adding anything here. I just really freaking love this album, and I was just re-listening to it recently, and I realized that it came out like 10 years ago, which just blows my mind. I just think it sounds so fascinating. So I figured I would just devote a video to me honestly just talking about how much I love this album. So if you're into that, let us continue on. So this album starts right off the bat with the song Fainting Spells, which I think just is a great all-around song that kind of gives a really good picture of where the album goes sonically. I think Fainting Spells is a perfect blend of, it's a little bit atmospheric, it's also very loud and oddly energizing. I don't know how to put it into words. It's a good energetic start to the album. Sonically, it gives you a good picture of the sound of the album. It's just overall a good track. And then Fainting Spells goes into Celestica, which is a little bit more of a subdued track for Crystal Castles. And it's kind of a nice little break until we get into Doe Deer, which is the third track. And Doe Deer is insane. This song, it's only like a minute and a half long, but my God, it's filled with energy. It's just a crazy intense song, so energetic, but it works. I really, really, really like Doe Deer. It's just Crystal Castles doing what they do best, which is taking odd sounds and totally random noises and just putting them together into tracks, and somehow they just make it work. But then you have the fourth track, Baptism, such a great track also. You've got, again, kind of like this pounding electronic bass to it, which provides the foundation, and then you have Alice Glass's kind of intense vocals on this one. It oddly works for some reason. Again, I feel like that's what Crystal Castles, that's their thing, is just taking odd things, mashing them together, and turning it into this sonically confusing yet addictive song that you just cannot get unstuck from your head. And then from Baptism, we go into Year of Silence, which is kind of this darker, brooding-ish type track. Almost a bit of a palate cleanser after Doe Deer and Baptism, which are way more intense, loud, in-your-face tracks. Year of Silence is kind of just this darker, brooding moment of silence, if you will, after those last two tracks that are just a little more intense. And then we have Empathy. If I'm being honest, Empathy is probably my favorite track off of this whole album. I don't know why. I love this song. Throughout all of 2 by Crystal Castles, there's this electronic beat that just carries all of the songs together. You can really hear it in Empathy. It drives the song. Yeah, Empathy is just a fantastic track between the electronic bass, the lyrics, and then track 7, Suffocation, is so good. This is one of the tracks on 2 by Crystal Castles that I oddly get emotional listening to it. I don't really know why. It's not even the lyrics, it's the feeling that this song gives me. It's just, I don't know, it makes me emotional. Not in necessarily a sad way, it just makes me feel things. But great track, especially after Empathy, which again, Empathy is kind of a little bit more upbeat, a little bit louder of a track, and then Suffocation kind of reins it back in a little bit. It's a little bit quieter, more atmospheric, I guess. And then from Suffocation we go into Violent Dreams, which, if I thought Suffocation was atmospheric, then Violent Dreams is really atmospheric. Violent Dreams is very relaxing for me to listen to. It can almost, in a really good way, just lull you to sleep. Very calming. It's honestly exactly what this album needs. After tracks like Doe Deer and Empathy and Baptism, it's just a very calm, peaceful, relaxing track to listen to, and I absolutely love it. And then right after Violent Dreams, track 9 is Vietnam. There is something about the track Vietnam that is honestly a little unnerving in a weird way. It almost puts me on edge. I don't know why. In a really good way though. But it's kind of like Violent Dreams just lulls you into this really relaxed state, and then Vietnam comes on after. There's some underlying sound to this track. It's almost like there's something building up. That's the only way I can describe it. You can just feel some sort of tension building up when you're listening to Vietnam. And then track 10 is Birds. This song's interesting for sure. It's got like these little bursts of electronic noises. Sonically, it's super interesting. To be honest, it's a very fun track to listen to. Next up is the track Pap Smear. This one is very, again, just kind of atmospheric. And then track 12, of course, is Not in Love, featuring Robert Smith of The Cure. This is easily Crystal Castle's most popular song, and for good reason. This song is absolutely fantastic. Tells about like the ending of a relationship, and honestly just a very heartbreaking, emotional track that is just so good. And I do love the original version too with Alice Glass's vocals. I think Robert Smith though, his vocals add something to this song. It's actually interesting. I read that most of 2 by Crystal Castles was actually recorded like in freezing temperatures in some church. I think that's really interesting that it was recorded like literally in the cold. I feel like this album sonically is very cold. It brings about images of snow and like a lake frozen over with ice and a very bleak, monochromatic, like wintry landscape. That's kind of what I imagine when I listen to this album. I think Not in Love, it just completely conjures up that imagery in my head. It's just like a very cold, desolate landscape. That's just what comes to mind. So I think that's really cool that this album was recorded in the cold. But yeah, Not in Love, absolutely phenomenal track. And then track 13 is Intimate. We kind of go from a more melancholy song, Not in Love, and then we get kind of a more, you could say, upbeat or electronic bass-driven song. A really good one. I really like Intimate, but just cool electronic beat to it. Kind of a nice little up-tempo song right after Not in Love. And then the album closer is track 14, I Am Made of Chalk. This song is weird. I will be honest, when I first heard this song, I didn't love it. And the more I listened to it, the more I really enjoyed it. And I think it's a fantastic closer to this album. Again, it almost makes me emotional, and I don't really know why. I have no idea what the vocals are, to be honest. Like, they're so distorted in that typical Crystal Castles fashion that I don't even know what is being said. And yet I find myself getting emotional while listening to this song. But I Am Made of Chalk, definitely a song that grew on me. I think it's a fantastic closer to this album. But yeah, that is my breakdown of all the tracks from To, the second studio album by Crystal Castles. Like I said at the start, there's not really a purpose to this video. This is not an album review or anything like that. I just adore this album. I love Crystal Castles and their music. This is probably my favorite album from them. And I can't believe it came out 10 years ago. I just wanted to talk about it in this video because that just blows my mind. But I really miss music like this on the scene. I'd love for this genre of really like weird, experimental, electronic music to have a comeback. And I think what I love specifically about albums like Two by Crystal Castles is they take very electronic, you could say cold elements of music, and they make it very emotional somehow. Like, there's something about a lot of electronic music that lacks emotion, and Crystal Castles is able to infuse a ton of emotion into their songs, even though they're very electronic and experimental. And I think that is what I love about Crystal Castles. Specifically, their album Two is just so good. Definitely give it a listen if you haven't already. And I think I'm just going to end this video here. I don't really have anything else to say. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned, and I will see you all next time.